Hop Edition podcast is brought to you in association with Brew Keg Tap, the number one choice for all your beer dispense and kegging needs, and specialists in the supply of Kegland brewing equipment to the UK market. So next time you're in need of taps, kegs, or anything with a Zilla on the end, get over to brewkegtap.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our patrons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/the Hop Edition podcast. Now pour yourself a cold one and enjoy the episode.
Just to let you all know, there are other companies that make plastic fermenters. Pretty good plastic fermenters, I have to say, because I've got one. Andy's got one.
Yep.
And I'm fairly sure Owen's going to end up with one soon. Okay?
What about me?
I don't know about you, Trick. I never know about you, mate. Right? These are the two guys from Kegland. So welcome to episode 76 of the Hop Edition podcast. We have Nico Hellstern. Did I get that right? Excellent.
Yay.
We've got Daniel Heiss. Now, this is the really weird part, okay? Because I thought we were hooking up with an Australian company. We're doing this at 9 o'clock at night. It's like 6 a.m. in Oz. And then we've got somebody who's half French, half German, and an American joining us to talk about an Australian company that makes fermenters and stuff. The world is a wonderful place, isn't it? I mean, this is just the way that we roll. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
More than welcome.
Yeah, great to be here. Yeah.
Yep.
Very exciting.
Here is Australia at 6 a.m.
I bet it's light over there now, isn't it? Is it light?
Not just yet. Probably in about half an hour it's going to get light. We haven't done daylight saving just yet. So, yeah, it's still a bit dark, but it's going to get light very, very shortly, yeah.
I am jealous because you guys have like cool animals, but you also have more snakes and spiders than the rest of the world. So
Deadly stuff.
you can keep them.
Only if you go outside. If you stay inside, you're fine.
Oh, I'm sorted then. This is just the way that we roll. So it's 6 a.m. for us, and we have a thing on.
Yeah.
Sorry, 6 a.m. for you. It's 9 and a bit for us. What is it, like 10 past 9, 5 past 9? So, guys, tell us. Nico, you go first. What are you drinking at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning in Australia?
What we call a breakfast beer. This is just a Schwarz beer that I have right now. Yeah, usually just a breakfast beer. It's a Sunday, right? So you got to start the day right.
Absolutely. That's what we want. Daniel, I know that you were knee-deep in the coffee a few moments ago, so what have you switched to?
Sorry, everything just dropped out there.
Okay. Wonderful. We've got Wi-Fi issues already. What are you drinking, buddy? Aside from coffee.
Is that for me? Yeah. Oh, coffee. No, I've got a pale ale made with Eclipse hops, which I don't know if you guys know. Are an Australian variety hop. You use Eclipse. Galaxy. Yep. Galaxy's like took over the world by storm for a while. Yeah. Look, it's a 6 a.m. beer, and I figured I'd go hoppy instead of dark because I already have the coffee. So.
I mean, you could
just,
mix the two, see what happens. We'll call it live blending. Let's go. Tricky, what you got, mate? And yes, I did that deliberately because your mic was muted.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris.
I've
got a mango pale ale from Howling Hops. I think this is a collaboration with Boxcar, as it's got Boxcar written on the side of it as well. And yeah, it's a fruity pale ale with lots of mango colour to it, no head retention whatsoever. As with quite a few fruit beers, I think the fruit sort of dried this out a little bit more than I would probably like, so it's not quite got that mango sweetness to it. But it's pretty drinkable, and it's cold, which is the most important thing right now.
It absolutely is.
So, yeah,
it looks like Sunny D, mate.
It does, yeah. It's all right. It's not bad.
Okay. Gotta get my deep voice back. Andy, what are you drinking?
Balls in check, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm drinking one of the Lidl beers, the Schneider Weiss Fest Weiss beer. Yeah, absolute banger. Pure banana. Nice little bit, a tiny bit of caramel sort of thing. Nice kind of kind of bready sort of. Yeah, it's just banging. It's good.
Nice. That sounds good. And Nico's eyes didn't scrunch up, and he didn't make face like he wanted to kill you. So pronunciation must be pretty good.
No, not even close. But I thought I would be polite and. I was actually trying to understand which one he said. And, it took me half a minute to understand which one he was talking about.
Just the Scottish accent. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
that's what it is. Blame everything on being Scottish, Andy. Owen, what are you drinking, buddy?
Well, let's try it again, shall we? Schneiderweiss.
That's what I said.
Yeah. I thought I'd have a go because I'm drinking the same beer as Andy.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is a bit of an unusual coincidence. Probably not. We've all been buying these 10 packs of German beers in Lidl.
Yeah.
And they've been absolutely spectacular, so I'm
Yeah.
mostly going to be drinking those tonight. But yeah, it's Andy called it Weiss beer. But it's a fest beer. It's a fest Weiss.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got a kind of darker in colour, but they've kind of blended that darker malt in really subtly.
Bit
So it
stronger
just
as
adds
well, I
a
guess.
slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to find. They're not big on sort of putting up the ABV on the beers. I've
Oh, they hide
noticed.
it. It's always hidden somewhere. It's on it, but it's like a
You
hidden.
Germans and hiding that stuff, Nico.
6.2% by volume. They seem obviously
We'll
not to
find
give a
it.
shit about how strong beer is. So yeah, it's a bit stronger, but it's very pleasant.
Yeah.
Outstanding. And just to keep everything going with the German theme, I'm drinking a Polana Weiss beer. Because let's face it, it is Oktoberfest right now, boys. Come on. So yeah, I went with Polana because it was literally the first bottle I pulled out of the fridge, and I went, yeah, that'll do.
Oh,
I've had this many times. It's an absolute perfect balance between the clove and the banana, and a really nice aftertaste of that bubblegum flavour. I really like this beer a lot. But as you may pick up as we go through the podcast, I kind of have a thing for German beer. It's all very good, start to finish. So, yeah. Anyway,
Talk
we've
about a
got that out
country
of the
that
way.
doesn't really need a craft brewing revolution. That was
No, it
that was
absolutely
Germany
does not.
Always had fantastic culture for that.
Yeah, I also find it quite amusing that Daniel's got a German surname.
Oh well, yeah. We all start someplace. We drift around the world.
Superb. So, Dan, you've been at Keg King the longest. You've got way more experience brewing. So, introduce yourself. Let us know what you do and sort of, what everything's about.
So yeah, I'm Daniel, and I've been at Keg King now for probably about 6 years, about 2017. Yeah, I came in to kind of help them promote the products, and in doing so, just fell in love with everything that we've been making. At the time, I'd probably been brewing for over 15 years at that point, maybe a little longer. Yeah, and doing all grain and all that kind of stuff. Had built my own systems, had kind of volunteered time at breweries, done some brewing courses, all that kind of stuff in the past, right? But my background was in filmmaking. So I'd done documentary filmmaking back in the States for years, and did communications and background in that for a while as well. Well, when I moved over here. So I moved to Australia in about 2005, actually in 2005, and lived here. And I didn't become a citizen until 2018, actually. When it pings you, like if you move to another country, you start living there, eventually it makes sense that you become a citizen of that place. And it pings you when you're not, and you come back after traveling, and they're like, hey, you got to pay all this money. So that was one incentive. But yeah, so at Keg King though, with the brewing, my background, I was about to start my own brewery just before I started working there. I'd gone through the background of being able to start. I was getting through the planning process of getting a brewery going, which can be kind of difficult over here. Depends on where you are. And at that point, like after having worked for Keg King for about a year, I was really glad I didn't do that. You learn so much about people. You learn from all these people that are brewing, because at Keg King, we're coming into contact every day with the people who are pretty much like, well, they're our heroes, right? They're the ones that are driving craft brewing. A lot of them, it's not just about homebrew. A lot of pro brewers are in there all the time. And you got to take that opportunity to ask them all the questions and figure out stuff. And really, when I look at what I was planning on doing, it would have been a difficult way forward. So yeah, you learn about this stuff because when people go into brewing, I think a lot of them, they have these starry eyes. I think when I first started at Keg King in 2017, everybody wanted to leave their current job and become brewers or become distillers, right? And it was like there wouldn't be anybody left to do any other work the way that Australia was like, I'm going to go be a brewer. And they start a brewery, in an industrial complex or in an old library or whatever, right? But yeah, having met with a lot of these people and sometimes what it comes down to is for breweries, one little seal or one piece of triclover equipment, and you're waiting to package, say, like 5,000 liters of beer, and you can't do it because you need to go and replace that. Well, hi, we got to take a quick trip out to Keg King, go and get that, and you'd find out that this is the brewer from your favorite, the headwaters of your favorite beverage, and they're more than happy. I found through the time that I've been there, everybody in this business is a resource, is full of knowledge, and Keg King itself has been pushing all these different, we service pro brewing, we service home brewing, and they've been pushing all these products. But Keg King isn't me. Right now, I should give a shout out to Cameron and Mike in the warehouse. Upstairs, you got David, Aaron, Chris. There's Rachel, June. There's Nico. There's who else am I forgetting? There's the entire engineering team, which without them, we wouldn't have this. So
That's right.
That's Nick, right? That's not Ryan, our design engineer, and Sam and John, of course, who's basically the guy that proves that you can drink anything and you'll be okay.
And you're in the shop. But Chris, you'll notice if you ask one question to Danielle, he's going to do an entire podcast on that question.
Yeah, that's good.
That's all good. It's all good.
Saves us work. So
Yeah, we could just sit here and drink beer, mate. This is a win-win for us.
Yeah.
Listen to it forever.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that. I actually have a few questions for you guys, which I'm going to ask later. Specifically about a couple of the products that you have and basically why they're not in the UK. But we'll get to that. I presume that's more Nico than that is you, Dan, to be fair. Nico, come on. Tell us about you. How does a French-German person end up in, Australia with a beard and a love for Schwarzbier?
How did we end up here? You end up here like most men. You end up here because of a woman. I think everyone is in that situation here. Just ending up here.
Did nobody see Tricky's eyes then? Just go, women?
So women are the people you see sometimes in the street. You're allowed to talk to them politely.
Thanks for the tip, Nico.
That was brutal. Love it.
My wife she's from New Zealand, and we moved here in 2011. I think we landed on the 1st of September 2011. We were living in Europe and then decided, hey, let's do something else. So we picked up the map, looked at New Zealand, said, nah, a bit too small. Looked at Australia and just picked Melbourne and said, this is it, let's go. And we just came here. And that was it. Then she had friends already here in Melbourne, and one of those friends' husband, Stu, was brewing beer, doing lots of kit and kilo at the time. And he said, hey, you should look into doing that. So I started doing the first one, the second one, bottling, And then after bottling a few times, I was like, nah, this is fucked. I don't want to do this. I want a keg because this is too much work. Slowly you start accumulating things, and down the rabbit hole you go.
Yeah, welcome to hell. We all live there too. I mean, it depends on how your brew day is going, to be fair. No, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's nice that you guys have got such a massive team behind you, because clearly your products are very, very good.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, why is it that you chose to produce the plastic fermenters and not go down the route of what everybody else has done, which I presume would be the larger amount of money for the stainless steel fermenters?
The idea behind everything was to bring cheaper products out there, more accessible, and to make brewing a bit better. So obviously you have the big white barrels available and things like that. But at the time, Keg King wanted to do something a bit different, and also offer the opportunity to go into conical shape, right? Because stainless steel is good. But at the end of the day, the biggest difference for me is a proper conical shape. So when you look at the Apollo, when you look at the original Fermentosaurus, you have that really nice conical shape, which brings everything to the next level, minimize trub exposure and all these different things that we're all fully aware of and we can discuss. But the idea was really to try and take it to the next level. Obviously, homebrewing, being Australia, alcohol is extremely expensive. It's almost against human laws for me. It's so expensive. So a lot of people are actually homebrewing for that purpose because it's way too expensive to go out. So it's already there. And Keg King just said, hey, let's take it to the next level for these people and bring more people on board. And that was it.
Everybody else is muted, so I'm just going to take this one. When you say really expensive, how expensive? Because I know it's really fucking expensive over here.
Yeah, because we're £6 a pint, which
so we're like $12 for a pint.
Of
Yeah.
Of
It
beer.
depends on
IPA.
right? Just a normal beer, but an IPA, a pint of IPA, how much is that?
IPA is about $12, isn't it?
Yeah, about $12, 12 maybe $13, depending on which brewery it's from.
Yep.
Yeah. Daniel, you can confirm we're pushing $16, $18 sometimes, right?
If I wanted something that was like the same as like Stella or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like we're talking like just run of the mill Pilsner.
Quadruple
Kinda.
X.
You can say it's piss water is Stella. Go on.
Yeah, any of that crap, right? So sorry, we're like crap.
Yeah.
So like there's a time and a place, right? And like Free and Cold, they're my two favorite beers. But the ability for people to go into Melbourne and go and get a pub beer at $16 for crap beer in a dirty glass, sometimes with a dirty draft system behind it, you're paying full price for that. And if it's an IPA sitting around 7.5%, $22
Wow.
Australian, and you're just like, can I try it first? Which is that'll bring us to some other really cool inventions at Keg King. You want to try something before you buy it, you need to have the right tap to be able to get it into little glasses.
Yeah, and then that's at the pub, right? So if you go to buy beer at the supermarket, for instance, you have Lidl, we have Aldi. Aldi, Lidl, they're very, very similar. For people who don't know, they're almost the same. I think the Schöfferhofer, which is the downgrade from Schneider Weisse for a can, is $8 right now. So yeah, right.
Yeah.
So me coming from Germany, where it's probably a euro was expensive for a beer, right?
Yeah.
Then you get here, you're like, I don't know, I don't want to pay that price. That's just not right. And especially if you grow up drinking beer, you need a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, I don't understand. How is it? Is it all tax?
tax.
Pretty much, yeah. That excise tax down here, it pays for everything. Let's put it this way, though: we should have hospital beds reserved for us by the time we're done with these
Yeah, but-
bodies. Because I mean, I don't know where that money's going, but healthcare is something that this country has. So that's great.
Yeah, we got it too, mate, but we don't
Yeah.
pay 12 quid a pint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yet.
Okay.
Oh my god, that is brutal, and I'm not very happy about that. I was
But
planning on.
see, Chris, see Sweden and all the kind of, I don't know. Is it not quite similar there in the Netherlands? And
Yeah, but in
No,
Sweden,
Sweden,
expensive in Scandinavia.
you get paid a
Scandinavia,
ridiculous
very high
amount of
tax.
money, though.
yeah, but the taxes are like crazy as well. So you probably only get 40% of what you actually. I don't know, but
And everybody's saying that England's shit. It's not sounding that shit right now.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All
So
right. We're all homebrewers, so
Yeah.
we're
gives a shit.
hacking the system right now.
Absolutely, that's what we got to do. So, I think we've pretty much come to the point where I say to Nico and to Dan, guys, take us through the history of pressure fermenters, because I love a good history documentary. Okay, so tell us how it came about, why it is, and the advantages of using sort of the conical shape as opposed to, let's say, a more round bottom shape.
Yeah, I think Daniel, you're going to take this one, but I just want to give a brief introduction there, saying that Keg King has been around for a long time now, and initially starting importing kegs, metal kegs, cornies, whatever you call them in Europe. I've seen in France and Germany they call them soda kegs or stuff like that, right?
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, so they
Yeah,
started
corner
importing
kegs.
them, and then slowly people have started asking for more homebrew related products and stuff like that. So the design team from Keg King started picking up on that and say, hey, maybe we should be doing this, and starting importing that, and it just really snowballed from there because there was nothing like this on the market. And yeah, all developed from within Keg King by Keg King employees. But Daniel, yeah, take us through the whole history. That will be a very nice seminar for most people there.
Okay, so home brewing, you guys know, pretty much started off with buckets and fermenters, and that were, plastic drums, anything you could get your hands on. So my without getting too, and stop me, okay, if I start rolling down a trail, you're like, where is he going with this? My great grandfather, he used to make his own during Prohibition in New York, and then moved out to California. Everybody did, because that's when malt extract got pretty much invented, was, back during Prohibition. And everybody was using open fermenters and crocks. You can ferment in whatever the hell you want, right? But there's like home brewing, which we're always, say 70s, 80s, 90s. People were utilizing things that aren't to become things that they want them to be, like fermenters, right? So you get a bucket, and as long as it was food grade plastic, you could use that. It had a lid. I mean, my great grandfather talked about just putting a clean cloth over his crock for being able to make beer, just so that, dust and spiders and stuff probably wouldn't fall into it in the basement. But actually having purpose-built equipment is like crucial to getting control. Like what I tell most people is, with this hobby, and with the practice of brewing, the closer that you can get to what professionals do, right, the better you're gonna be able to make your beer. And bottom line is, the more control that you have, right, the better you're going to have an experience. So like with any hobby, the more control, the more ability that you have to actually have the tools to do what you're thinking, and express yourself with the tools, right? And use these as your art form, right? These things are our palette, right? And we can draw from them, and we can make them work. So turning things that aren't into things that are was what homebrewing used to be about. Guys would get kegs, knock holes in them, get buckets, whatever. Eventually in the 90s, I think people started moving towards stainless steel fermenters. And just from a from a home brewing perspective, the professional equipment started to get shrunk. So at the like say go back 15 years ago, 10 years ago, all these little conicals started to hit the market, and they were perfect because we would see them as home brewers and be like, my God, that looks exactly like a vessel I might see in a brewery. And we all know what those, big brewery tanks were, and they were conical, and conical was basically all anybody really needed at the time. They're like, that's going to be better because it's less exposure with the yeast bed, and you can drop out the yeast if you have bottom dump ability, and all these little fermenters started to hit the market, and they have a huge price tag. They're like $600 down here, $700, and eventually somebody came up with this really kind of cool conical. People were getting these conicals in the States, I remember back around 2000 or so, that were plastic conicals with ball valves at the base of them, and butterfly valves at the base of them, that were, I think, used for lab equipment as like blood separation equipment. I don't know, something like that. But they were expensive as well, and they were just the same kind of plastic as white plastic buckets, right? But eventually then there were things like the catalyst that came out, which had legs and a conical bottom with a glass jar and a butterfly valve. And to take that to the next level, like Keg King started the search for pressure, because you could get pressure in conicals in stainless steel, and people were using low pressure to transfer from one vessel to another, right? And this is the benefit of conical. That's also the benefit of stainless steel that can handle pressure. But the price tag for adding pressure to those $600 already miniature uni tanks or fermenters was like another $300-400. So now you're up, in the thousands for getting pressure. But what holds pressure like better than just about anything is this PET. So the PET is remarkably strong for what it can do. Other types of plastic are too rigid, and they'll. Uh-oh. I think I've just dropped out again.
You're good.
No,
You're good.
you're still
You're
there.
good.
You're still there, mate.
But other types of plastic are too rigid, and PET allowed for that expansion.
Okay.
So that's when the company started looking at the PET stuff, and if when you're designing a PET, the way it works is you buy a very, very expensive machine that costs a lot of money with a lot of zeros at the back end of it, and then you can buy molds that go in the machine, and you can just design the mold however you want it to be, right? So it's important, and that explains why we have so many different fermenters. But most importantly, it just it gives you the options to really go in the right direction, whether you want to go full conical, whether you want to go a normal shape that people are more used to, all these different things. And when we selected a machine back in the day, we selected a machine that had a single process, which means the PET comes in pellet, it gets dried, then melted, then put in a preform. And most companies, what they do is they actually cool the preform and then reheat it and then blow it up. But for us, it's a single process, so it gets melted from the pellets into the preform, and as it's still hot, the air is blown into it and it becomes the fermenter. So that means the PET is more solid. You haven't broken down the chains, you haven't damaged anything. It gets a bit nerdy, guys, but basically it makes a better product. We think it makes a better
We love the
product.
nerdy bits.
I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
Proper nerd.
And-
like proper nerd.
Engineer.
Very
yeah. Go for it. I'm just
Yeah, and-
interested in
yeah.
like the mold as well. How hard is it for you to get a new mold like for different products?
It's
How much money do you
expensive.
have?
It's really expensive. Every time we're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could just do something different to a fermenter? And everybody comes up with cool stuff to do.
Yeah.
We just get told, yeah, you got, a spare, X amount of tens of thousands. And you're like, yeah, I don't know.
Is it a cast? Do you have to do a new cast or something?
Correct.
Or,
Yeah, that's correct. And these casts are not made by machines; they're actually made by hand because to get the right shape and the right smoothness and the correction right. So it's not necessarily just the price tag. You have to think about okay, we made PET because we wanted to bring cheaper products to the market, right? So now you're thinking, okay, well, if the cask costs me X amount of dollars, or
Least
a
to get a
mold, we
ton.
call it a mold, right? How many units do you need to sell to actually make it back, right, and make
Exactly.
it worth it? So it's not always necessarily worth doing it this way. That's why you have to be very careful in the design process, right? Because once you have the mold, that's it. That's what you got, and that's what you have to live with. But we're very, very happy with what we have. Yeah.
This is like the culmination of multiple different designs, right? So the Apollo, which we'll get to, comes from a background of other PET fermenters that didn't have conical, but were used for other purposes, mostly kegs and things like that.
Yeah, it's a great
The most
keg.
important thing about conical, right? The most important thing about pressure from a homebrewing perspective, all right, is having the same attachments on your fermenter as you do on your kegs.
Yes,
Makes
indeed.
moving things around so much easier. If you ever, and the old homebrewers like myself that watch your podcast, they'll know the pain in the ass it is to do racking from carboys or racking from buckets and going from primary to secondary and then waiting for bottles.
You see all the bubbles go up through the what do you call it? What was the cane? Your racking cane, and you
The
can
rack-
use, and then you
Auto
can see
siphon,
oxygen,
mate.
Yeah, then you see the oxygen bubbles going in. You're like, oh no, where's my leak?
Well, here's a weird thing. I got it. I finally got the moth. Here's a weird thing with our podcast specifically. So me and Tricky have been doing it the longest. Owen and Andy came in on around about episode 10. We have been absolutely screaming to the heavens the advantages of closed transfer for a very long time. Okay. And a lot of people are now jumping on this. In fact, I'd say the vast majority. We even got to the point we did a giveaway for a pressure fermenter just because we wanted people to experience what it was like. Yeah, we'll buy one, have it, take it, go, do your thing. And it's such a huge difference when you actually get like a pale ale that's pale and you get a hoppy beer that tastes of hops and not of just like cardboard. And you get Nipas that aren't brown or purple. And I know Nico despises Nipas.
Brown Nipa.
But there is nothing worse than an oxidized beer, okay? There really, really isn't. It's terrible. And I appreciate... And it's not just you guys, okay? Because, I've got one of your fermenters, and I've put it together. I've not had a chance to put beer in it yet. But what I can say is they are incredibly well built, all right? They're designed for morons like me who have trouble reading instructions, not following them, just reading them in general, because I'm intelligent. I can do this.
Chris, did
Clearly.
you want to say to us that the actual, the thickness of the material actually
Yes.
felt really good?
Yes. Yeah, it is hefty.
Yeah.
Is a word I would use to describe it. It's very, very good. Just coming back to your blowing it out bit.
Yep.
I used to work for Coca-Cola a long, long time ago, and that's exactly how they make their PET Coca-Cola bottles.
Yep.
They go into a machine as a small blank, and then they get heated and blown, and they form within it. I think it's a one. Line 9 at Coca-Cola in Wakefield. I used to go down there and just watch it. It's brilliant. It's a wonderful process. You see these tiny little bits go in of like solid plastic, and then they come out and they're Coke bottles or Oasis bottles, and it's just amazing. It's a wonderful process. I genuinely feel like pressure fermenting in a PET fermenter is about as good as most home brewers need. If you go above that, generally it's because you want to, isn't it, Andy?
You like shiny stuff.
Yes, you like shiny stuff. Yeah.
He loves the shiny stuff.
And when you get
deep pockets,
and when you get that shiny stuff, Andy, didn't you have to rewire your house?
Yeah, because I went for was it the 12-gallon or whatever, so you could
Yeah.
do a 10-gallon batch. Or what is it? Is it a 14?
When-
I think it's a 14 actually. But yeah, you do 10.
We're never going to stop giving him shit about that ever.
Hey, do you know what? It is the best thing I ever did. I love it so much that I've got that. Yeah, it's good.
It's brilliant. It's quality. And to be fair,
Yeah, no regrets.
the conical shape, although I am currently looking on your website and I've seen the Apollo Titan,
Yeah.
I want one. In fact, I want two. I'm going to be honest. $459.95 for a stainless steel pressure rated unitank fermenter with bottom dump.
That's excellent.
It's
Dollars,
cheap,
not pounds, not pounds, boys. That's
And
a decent night out in Leeds, is that?
Is that Australian dollars?
Is that in the UK at the moment?
That's Australian dollars.
particular
Nico,
product?
why
it
is
in-
this not in the UK?
I will answer that in 1 second. I just want to circle back to what you were saying about the pressure fermentation and the pressure transfer, oxygen-free transfer. 2 things on that. The first one is, yeah, I think in my experience, and that's just my experience with no science in there, where the beers can get oxidized the most was actually happening during the transfer for me. That's where I would notice, different flavor from tasting from the fermenter to in the keg. But also I got lost. Sorry, but doesn't matter. I was just thinking of the transfer. I wanted to say that I've contacted Monash University, which is one of the biggest universities here in Australia. We're actually going to be running some tests on oxidizing beer and at what stage it might be oxidizing. Because I want to get to the I want to get to the bottom and try and pinpoint where it's getting oxidized, right? So it's not during fermentation. Unlikely that it's during fermentation. It's most likely during cold crashing if you introduce too much air for some reason and you don't purge. So we're going to take some samples and get a oxygen ppm reading system to calculate that. So it's still in the making, but we're going to do something pretty serious about this, trying to identify and tell people, hey, when you do this, these are the consequences, right? And this is why we recommend to do things a bit differently or whatever, right? So stay tuned for that. To answer as to why Titan is not in Europe just yet is because it is very complicated to mass distribute things. And there's a small thing that's been happening over in Eastern Europe that's been complicating even more things, right? So transfer of goods used to happen a lot through Ukraine, and obviously with the war and everything else, it's been a bit more challenging. But we are working with distributors. The biggest one, obviously, you guys know, when you go to your local homebrew shop, we work with the people who bring Grandfather and Steel Spirit. So any of these guys, any of your local shop carrying their products, you should be able to find some Keg King products. So we're working with these guys to try and get that on board in Europe. I know there's a big demand because I follow groups in France and Germany, and people keep asking for the products. They keep asking for the different things. If it does happen, well, it will happen. I just don't know when. I don't know the price point. We just know that Titan is almost one of the first in the world at that sort of on that scale.
Absolutely one of the first in the world, yes.
Yeah, and I told my homebrew club, the main mashers here in Melbourne, we actually, during the testing process, we tried to blow one up because we wanted to know what pressure it would take to really... So it's full of water, right? So nothing happens because the water absorbs the energy and there's nothing's too wrong with it. But we were very, very pleased with the quality. We were very pleased with everything that happened during the test, the fail test, as you're supposed to do, right? Destruction test. Titan is one of those pieces of equipment you're like, okay, well, this is serious now, right? You can do whatever you want. You have 3 pours that are 1.5 inch, right? You can do anything you have in mind. I've seen people put some pigtails, I think they're called, where you can draw. You can add some side glasses if you want because you love to look at the beer. You can do almost anything you want. And the good thing is the plastic lid on top, our trademark lid, makes it so that if you have anything like a tilt or hydrome to take readings of your beer, then the plastic lid will let the waves go through, so you can actually still get the readings from a hydrometer if you want, right?
Can you
Wow.
can you hook up a chilling coil as well through the lid?
Yep. But Daniel, do you want to take that one? Because chilling coils, they're nice. What's the number one most annoying thing about cooling coils?
Cleaning.
Cleaning them.
Cleaning it.
Exactly.
Cleaning it. And
CIP.
guess what we're doing? Daniel, take it this one. What are we doing now?
So a normal piece of brewery equipment that you're going to find in every single brewery is a jacketed fermenter.
All right.
So-
okay, yeah.
It's just a better surface contact, right? More surface contact with the fermenter. Our CEO, Will, is the head pretty much of the engineering team, right? So there's an engineering head, but then there's just the head, which is Will. Came up with this idea as we were talking about would it be possible to create a jacket that could go around the fermenter? Yeah.
Yes.
And really affordably, and not just our fermenter, but any fermenter.
fermenter.
And then
Oh, so
what
it's
if you
almost
could
like-
also use that on your kegs?
Is it like a
Oh,
nylon
oh.
jacket thing?
It is.
Is it like?
Hold
is
up.
it-
Hold up.
All
Hold
right,
up.
wait,
Hold
hold
up.
on.
Hold up.
This is brand new products they don't want to talk about.
No.
Oh,
They're,
yeah.
they're on our podcast. We're gonna get it out of them.
Yeah, you
No.
probably could twist our arms.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
We want to talk about it. Don't worry. No. We want to talk about
Yeah.
it because it's coming out soon. I think we're going to receive stock within two or 3 weeks tops. It is a flexible thing. As long as you have a chilling unit, whether it is homemade by recirculating whatever you want through your fridge, or if you already have your glycol system,
Yep.
you can just use that jacket. It will be called the dual temp vest, and you can put it on anything for your fermentation. Now the kicker with this one is it's not just chilling, right? That jacket can take up to 35 or 38 degrees Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
So you can even go quick yeast fermentation, cold crash in a single vest, in a single jacket.
So
Nice.
it's all your temperature control surrounding whatever you are wanting to, whatever the medium is. So
Of
Okay.
amperage.
yeah.
All
And
right,
then
you've
there's the
sold
driver
me.
system for it.
Chris, get
You've
rid of
sold me.
Get rid of your fidgets, lads.
Yeah, so you've sold me. However, I have a couple of questions to this. Number one, it's going to be essentially a liquid path within a vest.
Correct.
Okay, right, okay. Because I was hoping for a fully jacketed fermenter like I used to use in the brewery. I was swinging down that route. However,
This is better, Chris, because it can go in any product.
it's better, but it's not shiny, Andy.
Yeah.
Unless they've covered it in silver foil.
It's not
No, no.
shiny. No.
No.
But it's cool.
This sounds brilliant, actually.
Yeah.
And you're saying that you can fit this on just about anything you want.
On a
Within
50-liter commercial keg, you can fit that on, right? So if you're having a party, for a lot of people here in Australia, they have parties, they rent kegs, right? So they all drink their piss, which is Carlton Draft, worst beer in the world. You'll be able to throw a jacket around it, cool the beer, dispense from it as long as you have your glycol system.
Yep.
It will work on any fermenter. The point is, you don't want to corner your products into one end, right? So being flexible means you can give that to more people. As we said earlier, Keg King is all about helping as many people as possible. So we give you a product, and you guys do whatever you want with it, as much as within reasons.
So
Yeah,
it's
it's about affordability as well. You know,
Yeah,
like
I'm just
Cask.
watching Chris open up another beer, and now I'm getting jealous.
Yeah, with an adjustable spanner.
I'm from Yorkshire. We're hard.
Right.
So you guys were talking about a 50-litre commercial keg, but in the
You don't want to
UK,
pay for
Is
it,
that
though.
Sankey, like a Sankey keg?
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have a lot of cask beer as well, where you
Yeah.
want to control the temperature of that, but maybe not as cold. So like a cask, you throw it away the cask or something like that.
Perfect for it.
Yeah.
Cask jacket. I love cask. I'm so glad that you guys have kept that tradition alive. What do you got
Yep.
there? Oh,
Oh, Hold on.
Oh, it's
Wow.
It's the Hofbräuhaus Oktoberfest beer.
Napsies.
No, you're gonna be
I
thinking
have
about
to
getting them out
say-
of the fridge now.
I've had this
I've
one a
drank
few
mine.
times. This is a banger of a beer. This is really, really good. I mean, look at that.
It's pretty
Beautiful,
hoppy,
isn't it?
actually.
Yeah.
Clarity.
Pretty hoppy.
Stunning beer. And it smells just a little bit of sulfur, which always makes me drool. So the Titan is probably going to be coming eventually once Ukraine sorts itself out. Unless, you could maybe ship through Germany. Just saying.
No, we can. It's the distribution process is never easy, and we're working on different avenues. Obviously, you want someone who will bring in on board the volume, right, to make it worth
Yeah.
it for them. Because on our product, for us on our market, it looks like it's under $500 and stuff, right? But when it gets to Europe, between the pound and the euro, if the product is 300-400 euros or whatever, how many pounds you're ready to pay for, right? That's up to you.
That's still cheaper than anything else in the market.
By a mile.
Yeah, by a
Oh
mile.
yeah. We looked at other stuff that we were bringing in from American suppliers, and look, they have full pressure conical stainless steel.
It's
About for
1100,
Australia,
1200.
yeah, like $1,200, $1,400 for and up for the 50-liter versions.
Yep.
There's nothing like this.
They're
that can
not cheap.
handle pressure, and we give you all the add-on equipment in the lid, right? You
Can
get-
I just... I want to
everything.
jump in on that bit, Daniel, right? I want to jump in on this because I'm just going to say it. So you two are going to flinch. Your bosses aren't going to be happy. I don't care. There's another company, okay, that operates out of Australia called Keg King. Not Keg King. You're Keg King. Kegland. Okay? You'll know them. You'll know who they are. The one thing that's always annoyed me is you buy the all-rounder. Okay? It's a fermenter. It does its thing. There's no dip tube. You have to buy that. There's no connects. You have to buy that. There's no thermowell. You have to buy that. If you want a fucking handle, you have to buy that. All of these things are extras. I got shipped from Nico. I don't know how he sorted it out. This man must use like 14 carrier pigeons to ship it to me. Right, but this fermenter arrived and I opened up the box and it's got everything. Everything. There was a film, and I can't remember which film it was, but like in this film, you have to crawl. Oh, it was iRobot, the end scene in iRobot, where he has to climb down that big shaft and drop a bomb into it, and that big metal thing with like a big thing. That's what the center of this fermenter looks like. That's what the actual, the middle of it, the temperature probe looks like. It's phenomenal. It's awesome, right? I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination, because I haven't used it yet, that it's a better product. All I'm saying is from the way that my hands felt it, you're not going to be disappointed if you choose the Keg King one, okay? The plastic's really nice and thick. It's wonderful. And it comes with everything. And the disconnects are the same disconnects that are on your keg. That, for me, was a big selling point for me. However, I'm not going to say in any way, shape or form, I am not advocating for either. All I'm saying is I've got both. I'm going to use them and expect a review pretty soon.
Good. I think obviously we can't really comment on other people's decision on how they want to run their companies, but from our perspective, we can tell you that we fight internally very hard, and Daniel is always spearheading this. Is you should be able to have everything out of the box. This is what we want to offer as an experience to people when they buy something, because, well, if it's too hard to find all the different bits and pieces, then people are confused and they don't want to get it on board, right? So we all started somewhere. Very few people start with all in, all grains, with the highest gear. You start easy, right? And you get into it, right? So you should be able to open the box and just put it together and say, okay, well, now I've got everything. Let's see how to play with this, right? So for us, it's just like a present, like a box of Lego when you were younger, right? Or still,
I love Lego.
These days, right?
Love Lego.
You just open it and you have all the different sachets. Now you have part 1, 2, 3. You assemble all the different things and then put it together, kind of thing, right? Well, we want the same thing, because at the end of the day, there are things we don't want to compromise with, right? A conical shape, very, very important. Clear plastic, single mold, so more resistant, and the thermal well as much as possible. That's why Apollo is our baby, because the built-in thermal well, I think for me, it's just it actually makes so much of a difference, right? You don't have to attach anything to put a probe in a glass of water in your fridge, right, or anything else. It's inside the beer. There's no better reading than inside the beer, right? That's what you're trying to control.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
my favorite part of the Apollo actually is, Daniel can show it. It's silly, but the handles, I absolutely love the handles, right? And you will not break the handles. I did break one by dropping.
You can't
something
break them. It really takes doing, though. Yeah.
I dropped something onto it and they just snapped off. One of them snapped off. But that's the only way you can break it. The weight of 30 kilos in there will not break. Even on the 60-liter one, the 60 kilos, you can have two people hold one side each, and the fermenter won't break. So, yeah, the handles, I just love the handles.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
Looks like a solid lid. I'm interested in terms
really
of what's that like rod running right the way through.
That's the
The
thermal
middle.
That's
well.
a thermo well, yeah.
Closed
That's the
bottom
thermal well.
fermenter.
Yeah.
So the closed bottom ones we call snub noses because
So
it's
does that run
shorter version.
right to the bottom of the FV, the thermo well?
It stops just at the base, right?
Okay.
Your temp probe, a 6 mil temp probe, fit up in here. Now, in the Unitank variety, we have what we call a plunge valve. So there's actually a handle on top of this. You'd be able to lift it up, and then you'd have bottom dump on the base of the cone here, right? So it works kind of like a sink drain, if you would. But with the snub nose variety, you get just and I'll show you this because the lid design on this is what makes it awesome. Again, this is just a tribute to the engineering team who are always like, this is the best part about working in Keg King is you go, wouldn't it be cool if we had like, as homebrewers, we're always like, wouldn't it be cool if we had like another port, a way to put like dry hops in it? Like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a thermal well? And they go, yeah, cool. So where do you want it? And in this design, there is a half-inch BSP.
Daniel, get the float out of the Apollo because it's making a lot of noise. It's actually.
Sorry.
There you go.
It's all falling apart.
It's clanking around.
Your balls are too noisy.
Good thing I'm having beers at 6 in the morning here. So, you got your float ball. You do get screened, filtered pickup, right? With a nice big surface area, so that you're not going to get
standard
clogged
as well. The
fast.
filter that comes
Standard.
with it.
Yep.
You get this longer dip tube, but you can cut this back so that you can orient your tube on the centralized post that's in the middle of the fermenter. This way, it doesn't float out and suck up stuff off the walls, right?
Yeah.
But the beauty of this design also provides for us that half-inch BSP threading, which means you can put in the Unitank variety spray balls on here if you wanted to, and you could wash out 60-liter tanks without lifting them up.
Oh, hello.
And drive them from the top BSP on top. But with this variety, you're just going to take your temp probe 6 mil and throw it in here, and you'll get a true liquid read. So your temp controlling devices, instead of being stuck to the outside and like reading more of the ambient temp, are actually getting true liquid read. And in this case, like, it's a really small fermenter. Like, there are people that will be like, oh, the best place for a temp probe is on the side of a fermenter. But when you're talking 30-liter this size, center is absolutely fine. Like, it's really not that big. We're not actually. So we're not talking about the same sort of volumes as professional breweries. So we can get away with stuff in home brewing that you normally can't get away with, right? In larger breweries. But this design.
Daniel,
go ahead.
Jump on the filter briefly because we tried a smaller plastic one. You can buy super cheap. We actually sell them for like $1.50 for the plastic version of those filters. They don't work as well. They're too fine. This is the right. It's perfect. It works extremely well. The reason why it's included in the kit is because we all got tired of having ball lock posts when you're transferring because you have hot matter going to them. It is the worst experience possible. You're trying to do this, no oxygen, no air contact and whatever, and then you suddenly have to purge and CO2 and do all these different things, push gas into the beer to try and throw the liquid pores to try and unclog the thing. It's a nightmare, right? For this one, I went up to 300 gram dry hopping in an Apollo, and the filter still worked. It was crying for its life because there was a lot of hop matter, but it worked. It just did the job. You can transfer. It's a slow transfer, but you're still transferring. You can just set it and come back 20 minutes later. Your keg is full, and your beer is perfect.
The other thing is, that liquid disconnects fit on, gas fits on liquid. Liquid shouldn't fit on gas, but it can when you're half cut and you're trying real hard to push it on there. But with that ability to take the gas and put it down the dip tube, right, you can blow out the hop matter away from the screen. So this is another great advantage of just having pressure in your fermenter, because you can set just a little bit higher and just click in, clear the screen. And yeah, you can get away with some massive hop. 300 gram that's pretty good. But
yeah,
300 grams is amateur hour, to be fair, in some of the nipples I've made.
Yeah, we're talking
that's plenty.
You guys aren't even trying at 300 grams.
Come on.
I've only extracted 15 liters from one of these one time, and it was that much sediment.
Outstanding work.
But it's
just
great to
take a step back for a minute. As somebody who currently uses more round plastic fermentation vessel, shall we say, can you tell me a little bit more about? I know you've mentioned sort of conical and wanting to incorporate that into there, but what is having that kind of conical shape going to sort of do for me as far as helping with the brewing process and experience as far as using that fermenter?
Actually, Nico wrote a fantastic piece, and his kids even drew some pictures for it. Tell them about the benefit of conical.
Well, if you read the there's a book, I forgot the name of the book, it's in the article, but if you read a book, someone says a conical shape for a brewery should be around 70 degrees, I think it is, or 60 to 70 degrees, right? And what it does is, for like Chris, a matter of German beers, you want to drop the yeast as much as possible, the particles, right? And the closest path for particles to drop is obviously in a conical shape, because then they have less distance to travel, right? And then suddenly they start accumulating to the bottom. Mm-hmm. So why you want to do that is because you want less contact between the trub, the dead yeast, and the possible off flavors you might get transferred into the beer. So it settles nicely to the bottom. For me, it's more about the color. It really, when you're cold crashing, it really helps to collect everything in the one place. And you get a clearer beer. Well, at least we think so, based on our tasting it compared to our also different shaped bottoms, like the junior or the chubby fermenter. You can get really, really clear beer from the conical a bit better that way. And if you have a unitank, it's a lot easier to collect the yeast as well. I don't collect my yeast. I just put another batch right on top of the previous batch, and it's fine, off you go. But if you're dry hopping, obviously you want to get rid of that and then collect the yeast and stuff. Yeah. So the conical shape is really helpful for that. It just do what the breweries do, right? There's a reason why they use a conical shape, right? So why not do the same?
No, absolutely.
It's an industry kind of standard to have that. And even in some of these vessels that you see at breweries, they look like they're flat bottom, but they can actually just be jacketed, and there still is a cone in there that they're drawing.
The vast majority of them are still conical. Even if it's not 70 degrees, it is still conical to reduce that bit. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is something for me personally, because I'm thinking about going down this route. We're still working out the financials. However, I want to go down the route of, like Andy said, with a cooling coil that I can also use to maintain the temperature during fermentation. Am I right in thinking that the cooling coil that you guys have got for the Titan is at an offset angle, so it doesn't interfere with that thermoprobe down the middle as well? Because I've looked at the images of it, and it looks like it goes like down, down.
I think you've looked. No, I think the one you looked at it sounds like it's the junior cooling coil that you looked at. The Apollo cooling coil is just a normal sort of shape looking cooling coil. I think you're talking about the junior one that looks like a different.
Oh, that's a shame. That's a real shame. Is that?
Again, I'm going to bring this out and just show you there are ports on the underside of this.
Yeah.
You can see where those circles are kind of here.
And you can drill through it to install your cooling coils. Yeah.
So that's where you'd be installing them. Those are the expansion ports.
With the cooling coils, you can sort of bend them into different ways. If you wanted that Harry Potter shape, then you can probably bend it in a different way.
It's all right. He's making a hell of a lot of noise, so I've muted him.
Oh, okay.
I've unmuted him now.
Dan, Nick, I mean, it's obvious. Like, I love the fact that you guys have really thought about the user perspective in the experience of brewing and like how to just make these little tweaks to make it easier and better. Yeah, and the filter and the fact that the filter runs down the center tube, the thermo well, is just genius, and it doesn't hit the side of the. Hadn't even really thought about that.
Yeah, because how many times on is it just sat at the side and it's just starts sucking in CO2, and you have to give it a little hit or something to
initially kind of sucking that dirty yeast off the wall, and you know, that's a bit of a pain. But so that kind of mindset, it's like what I'm sensing from you guys is two key things that go into kind of your engineering thinking. One is kind of little incremental improvements. The second is the affordability piece, right? Homebrewers, by nature, think about affordability. That's the reason why we make beer at home, isn't it? You know, it's not just about affordability, but also about quality. So is there anything else in terms of like little things that you might not have talked about in terms of the products, that little tweaks that you've made that have means that the products are more usable, and kind of things that our listeners are going to get excited about? Because I got pretty excited about certain things that you've kind of figured out that gone, yes, that works.
Well, I think for me there's two things. The biggest one is, as our lead is our trademark lead, but it's also 3 millimeters smaller in diameter than the opposition's lead, right? So if you like the shape of our lead, you can actually get a thicker O-ring on our lead to use on your other fermenters. Again, it's about being able to use what we consider great design, because we love it. It's our design, well thought out, on different fermenters. That way you can maybe try and see which one works out better. But that's relevant when we are looking at designing a different lead that will be stainless as well in the future. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's still in design process, but there will be at some point a stainless lead. It will replace basically the plastic that you have there. The plastic lead will be stainless with different fitting locations and different fitting attributes. So the point is to give people even more flexibility with the lead. That will be an addition for much later. We're talking a few months away probably, but they just every time you use something, you think, why is it this way and why is it done that way? I think the second part was about the PRV. So currently, when you purchase it, you have different PRVs, the different colors. So the pressure release valves on the top. You'll have the blue, the purple, and the white one. We used to have a different shape. So at the top, some of them are round, and some of them are more rectangle now. Because one of the things with the PRV is you want to release pressure at a constant rate, right? The point of the PRV is to release as much pressure as possible, and the fastest way, so that you remain in a safe environment for your tank. So we changed the design slightly so that the pressure release will be faster when the pressure release valve opens, and that means your tank will be a lot safer as well for use. The life expectancy of the tanks, technically you're supposed to do a hydro test every 2 years. So a hydro test, for those who don't know, is you fill the tank with as much water as possible, and if it put some pressure into it, and if it holds the pressure, then your tank is good to go for another couple of years, kind of thing, right? So that's what you're supposed to do as a best practice to make sure that you operate in a safe environment. We do have a stamp for the date on the fermenters. The life expectancy is, whilst it can be seen as short, if it's 2 years, you can replace the tank for a minimal amount. At least in Australia, it's only like $15 or $20 for a replacement tank, right? If you really want to. But if you do the hydro testing, you could potentially keep that for 4 or 5 years easily. And all the different parts included, right? The lid, the post, and everything else. You can grab all these parts and you can put them in the dishwasher, including the cooling coil, run it through a cycle, and it will clean the entire thing. So for those who are a bit lazy or want to be efficient with their time, just put everything in the dishwasher and let
including the actual conical part.
No. The one thing with the PET PET thing.
I was going to say, I've seen some wonderful videos of people fucking up their tanks by putting them in a dishwasher, mate.
Boiling water right into the tank. Yeah.
Boiling water is bad. I think the rating temperature is 40 or 45 degrees Celsius for the tank, because as we discussed earlier, Chris, right, is same thing for the Coke bottles, right, soda bottle, whatever it was. It's the heat that will change the molecules or the chains and just expand the thing, right? So if you put heat into it, then the plastic wants to change shape again. Now the Apollo is very resilient, as you pointed out. The plastic is extremely thick. I think at the base it's over 1 centimeter thick at the very bottom in the snub part. So it will be resilient. Don't test it, right? But it will be resilient and it's very solid. I think the 60 liters are a bit thinner and stuff like that, so that's very specific about the temperature. Also, it's very scratch-proof in that way, but some people like to change their tanks fairly frequently just because they have minor scratches on the inside or whatnot, so they just want to get a new tank. But I've been using tanks that have been thrown around and whatever, and it's just fine. I have no issues with that.
We actually did a video a while back where we took our older 35-liter tanks and lifted a ute, like a small truck, off the ground with them. And they were scratched all to hell because we put 4, 1 under each strut, and then lifted the truck. And just with the pressure of CO2 filling up the tanks. And they were scratched all to hell. Afterwards, we still made beer in that. Inside the tank is super smooth, and that's really all that matters. So, yeah.
Yeah, they are. I mean, like I said, they're hefty. They're built to last. They're pretty cool. I just from feeling the actual tank and feeling the way that it's set up and everything that comes with it, and just tiny little things like color-coded O-rings. Even a moron like me can put them together, right? They got color coding for all the O-rings. It's like blue goes here,
that's one of
red
those...
goes here. It's idiot proof.
That's one of those improvements that we've made throughout time, right? Because we thought, okay, all the improvements, it's coming from the perspective that we have a big customer service team, and we get calls every day by people, right? And when you work with people, you have a wide range of people. You have people who are very self-sufficient and people who need a lot of support, right? And we love everybody. However, what we don't really like doing is answering the same question 10, 20, 30 times a day, because that means that we haven't educated the people well enough, or the product is not simple enough to use, right? And that's not good enough. And the German side of me wants to improve that efficiency there. So we just make small improvements all along the way, and the whole engineering team is really great with that. They say, if we can make something easier for everyone to use, and they don't have to rely on a phone call to a company because you're brewing on a weekend. Let's be realistic. Most people will brew on a weekend, right? You can't get us on the phone on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday, right?
No, you're all pissed.
Yeah. Hopefully. But you have
not
to be
at $16 a pint, you're not.
No, that's why
only at 6 a.m. on a Sunday.
So, hang on.
I think we just had a small child coming in.
That seemed
Oh,
like
yeah,
a child
two of them.
intervention there.
Two of them.
Breakfast time, Daddy.
Where's
Because
my
it's
cereal?
breaky time now. It's breakfast time. But yeah, so all these improvements come from the fact that we just rely on the customer service team to make all the improvements, pass on all the messages from the different people, yeah, we get the feedback from people and we say, okay, well, this is not working or this is not good enough, and then we just try and incorporate that as much as possible.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Colored
mindset.
O-rings. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, it's small but impactful, isn't it?
Do you
Actually,
know how
I think
annoying it is to
The
try and
green one
describe-
is for hops.
Well, it's not that. It's just when you have someone on the phone, right, and they say, I can't get this O-ring to work. You're like, okay, which O-ring are you talking about? It's impossible to describe an O-ring from one to the other, right? They're
Yeah.
both black, most likely, and who has a caliper at home to measure things, right?
No.
So you have to color code it, and again, that's our engineering team, right? Is the first thought. It's just like, okay, well, that's the only option, right?
Genius.
It all comes down to one thing, and I think this is something that people need to take into account, and clearly Keg King have, is that the vast majority of people, when they're putting together a fermenter, if you're a home brewer and you're putting together a fermenter, chances are you're pissed when you're doing it. Right? There's very, very good odds. If you're not pissed, you've at least had a few.
We give pressure vessels to people who maybe shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Mess with
exactly.
it,
Yeah.
Be careful. Yeah, there's some really good safety tips right there. Like always
that's-
safety.
That's
Read-
what it comes
read
down to.
Read the safety manual, guys. Just full warning.
Yeah,
There'll be no
RTFM.
lawsuits here. Thank you.
The-
One benefit I hadn't
Sorry, Ollie. Go on.
ever really considered with this type of fermenter that kind of hit me a minute ago was just the fact that they're so much lighter, compared to stainless steel.
Yeah.
So you can, for me, like I've got a 60-litre PET fermenter. I've also got a 30-litre PET fermenter. It's kind of nice in terms of being able to just switch in and out, and just from a cleaning perspective as well, they're you can take them to where your drain is and whatever, versus stainless steel, which typically is like clean in place. So it's that's actually a really key benefit in my mind of
I had
PET
to-
over stainless
Yeah.
steel.
Big time.
Yeah, I had to
Yeah.
change my whole philosophy in cleaning the one. I had to get, you had to get pumps, sump pumps, like that could circulate
Yeah.
from a bottle, and then CIP and all that, because there's no way you're moving those stainless tanks.
Was
It's
that-
just
Was
forget
that
it.
after you sprayed your entire brewery in hop and yeast matter? Was that
So
was
what-
that the
what-
learning curve?
Yeah, that was, what was that? Was it, did I leave a tilt? The problem is, see when you have the tilt in, right, it can create a block, and then you try and flush the thing, or if you use too much hops and it's blocked, and then you end up trying to punch it out and stuff, where you're actually better like doing a water kind of wash first, and then try and get the hops out that way and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
a tilt,
all- yeah.
tilt, guys, is a floating hydrometer, if you're not aware.
Oh yeah.
Just out of curiosity, Nico, are your kids still in the room?
The room next door, yeah.
How good's the sound deadening?
Bro, I can't hear them.
Okay, no, I mean,
Yeah,
as in from my voice traveling to them. I suppose you're on a headset, aren't you?
They can't hear you.
Okay, because basically Andy's got a casting couch. And if you have a look at his channel, what you will see, right, is you will see a wonderful picture of him trying to clean. It's not actually a casting couch, we jest. However, there is actually a wonderful picture of Andy with his red light in the background and a couch at the side of him, and literally essentially the
Yes,
shrub from a
oh.
brew everywhere.
All over
It's
the
quite
couch.
phenomenal.
All over me. It's the classic, oh shit sort of moment,
It was just brilliant,
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely
it looked like you'd
brilliant.
taken a shit.
Did you rescue
Yeah.
the beer though? I mean, were you able to get
Oh yeah,
any
no,
of it?
the beer was already in it was already in keg, transferred. It was literally me just trying to dump all the yeast and trub out of the fermenter to clean it. But it just went bang, all over, because it was almost like it kept getting blocked. So I was like, I ended up scooshing water up the bottom of the thing, right? And then I don't know, it just came like proper.
And what goes up must come
Exploded
down.
everywhere.
This
Yeah.
must be something that happens for Scottish people, maybe. Because
There's photos.
Wow.
just because we had a guy that called us, he had one of our 60s in Scotland, and he was sitting there with a clog up in the tube of the dip tube, probably jammed hops up into his post, and then was dead set on getting that last half liter of liquid out of the base. So he's got a 60-liter fermenter, right, with like a half liter at the base of it, and he's just cranking on the pressure to try to unblock it.
Yeah.
The lid blew.
Yes.
He was safe, everything's fine, but when you got that little bit left, and he's just like, I'm not wasting that. He's getting that out no matter what.
It's a Scottish and Yorkshire thing. We're all very tight. We have deep pockets and very short arms.
Which, did you guys know you have a very ancient old, I thought I found this because I know you guys are English, Scottish, made in Scotland hydrometer.
Oh yeah.
From the past, from 1981, right? This was my
manufacturer?
wife's
Vintage.
grandfather's hydrometer.
What's the manufacturer?
Don't drop it.
Is Peter Stevenson's
Stevenson Reeves.
Limited, Edinburgh.
Yeah,
Right.
but is that a Stevenson Reeves hydrometer? It's an original, by the
It
sounds
was
of it.
just a Peter Stevens one. Reeves
Back
probably
then.
wasn't even part of the company.
Yeah,
then.
so they must have,
Merged later.
merged.
Wow.
I saw the distilling and brewing in Scotland would probably be one of the reasons. Yeah.
Wow.
Just skipping back for a second. I had a bit of a funny incident with failing to release the pressure from my fermenter before I decided to dump the yeast. And hasten to add, I painted my feet in what looked like shit.
Yeah.
So
Baby
yeah,
cook.
kind of looked like.
I mean, we could have used chicken
messed
tikka
myself.
masala, couldn't we? Really, because that was a
masala.
similar colour. Yeah.
Well, it was a dark beer, so it ended
Oh yeah, you're
up,
screwed then. That's
Yeah.
brown, mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tip for our listeners: if you're gonna dump yeast, make sure you take the pressure off your fermenter. You know.
And if you're not using pressure, just take the blow-off tube out of the sanitizer bucket before you hit the dump valve.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How many people found that out on the very first go, and they're like, "Wait, what's that sound of liquid going in the fermenter?"
The one that
This is
I've
why
always
pressure is still better. It's just like that never happens. You just kind of, and oxygen free. I'm telling you, it makes a massive difference. Like even this beer is not that young, and it's everything about it from grain to glass has been, thought of and used pressure the whole way without oxygen interference, and it's actually tastes pretty good for how old it is.
It's a massive thing, though, isn't it, Dan? You know what I mean? It is a huge part of improving your brewing process, and we've just done a podcast about cost-effective brewing improvements, and one of the big things was, we had to give the benefits of pressure fermentation all of the time because they are huge. I just want to jump onto one thing because this from me it's very much an engineering and logistical thing. But what do you find to be the benefits? What advantages does making the products in Australia? Because I know that everything of yours is made in Oz, pretty much. Everything's formed and made and tested in Oz. And I haven't seen the result of the Australian rugby, so I can't actually make any jokes about that right now, which I really want to. As opposed to what other companies do, like outsourcing it to various other countries that are currently fucking up our ozone layer and destroying the forests and shit.
Well, this one is a bit of an oddball because there are products that you need to make overseas, right? You don't have any choice. It's very hard to find. Especially industry in Australia is not what it used to be, so you can't find really cost-effective stainless steel producers here in Australia. It's very difficult. All the raw products get sent to China or Asia and they get processed overseas, right? So the benefit for us to have a design team here and a production team here means we can actually do a lot more testing. The communication is a lot easier. It's you're face to face all day, every day with the engineers, right? So you talk about this. The engineers can talk to the market directly as well. That's a very big benefit. You're right there. You're in the center of everything. For the production, without being rude to anybody around the world and not being condescending, we know the value of Australian industry, of the Australian industry, the capabilities, the training of the engineers, the production people. We know how well they can perform, and we know how reliable and constant we can have the production. One thing we know about overseas production is the consistency can be very difficult to achieve. High consistent quality is not something that is easy achieved overseas. Europe is the same. You have good quality products that are made in Europe. When you buy from made overseas, right, things tend to be a bit more hit and miss, or harder to get super constant. With us, we know the guys, especially John and Nick, obviously overseeing the production of PET. If a tank has a tiny visual imperfection, it doesn't make it in the box. You will not see it on the shelf, right? When we're pressure testing the tanks, or when we're pressure testing something before we put it in the box and we say it's good to go, we know it's good to go because it's been tested right. And if it doesn't work, we're not going to just say, oh yeah, you can have it, it's fine, it will be fine. There's no it will be fine. We're talking about real products that we want people to be happy with as much as possible. Obviously everything has to be cost effective, right? So sometimes you have to go a bit lower sort of parts and stuff, but not on the fermenters. Everything is the best we can. So having the design team here and the production team here is very important for the consistency in the output of the PET. Now, the thing that, obviously the drawback for us means we can't produce overseas and ship from there. For instance, if we had a machine running in the US, we would be flooding the market in the US because everyone would love Apollos and our fermenters, right? Well, that's not an option. We have to produce them here in Australia and get them sent to the US. And that's very, very expensive to do, right? So I guess that's the main drawback. But it is what it is. We started in Australia for Australia, and then suddenly everyone was like, oh, this is awesome. We want them here, right? Just like you guys when you said Titan, I want one in the UK. Well, yes.
I still do.
Still do. Everyone to have one. So yeah, that's the good stuff. And I talk to the engineers every day. We talk to the engineers every day about what they're doing and how they're thinking about things. And yeah, having that contact with them every day when you're designing something is very, very important, because they can ask you questions as well. When we're designing a fridge, for instance, right? Our kegerators are world famous with the Keg Master. They say, okay, we want to do this. What do you think the market will say, right? And we're like, no, actually it doesn't work. You have to keep it this way, or this is how people use it, right? But also most of our people brew or ferment or enjoy a sort of fermentation, right? So they have that knowledge of the use of the product, which is very important. Yeah, these guys are geniuses as well. So yeah, we love having our team here. It's very important to us. And also, the last part, sorry, the last part is, and made in Australia means a lot to a lot of Australian people, right? Because when you spend money with us, you know that the money goes back to the country here. It stays in Australia. It doesn't go overseas to be sent to engineers overseas or anything like that. It's spent here to pay salaries of people on the production line here, engineers here, and all these different things. So for Australians, it's very important to keep that within Australia.
We haven't had this on the podcast for a while. Nico, Daniel, you probably won't get this joke. Guys, I've just got to go because the hedgehogs are back. Give me a moment.
Just full disclosure, Chris has a couple of amorous hedgehogs that like to live around his shed this time of year. Can cause some sort of audio issue.
I'm actually
tricky.
In an outdoor building that has possum that I had to remove from the wall here, who likes to get up at like 4 a.m. and start looking around.
Have you ever heard
sorry, they were fucking
meetings?
shagging on the lawn again.
There you go.
Sorry.
That's awesome.
Did you take a photo?
I didn't. I'm not. I've got 2 hedgehogs that live under my shed, right, and they tend to produce quite a lot of baby hedgehogs, and they were outside trying to make more baby hedgehogs right now. So I've just had to shoot them off. I swear to God, it wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for the high-pitched squealing while they're banging.
You're affecting the circle of life, Chris.
Oh man, I tell you,
Interrupting.
I'll be honest, it's embarrassing. I've got to interrupt this podcast. Sorry, guys. I need to deal with the hedgehogs that are fucking on my lawn.
I think we need like a separate webcam or something for it, so we can have that in the
Just
picture.
cut to that.
Just cut to the hedgehogs. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've got
sorry.
the action.
One of those unbred ones.
Be like a really spicy
man.
version of like Springwatch or something. Won't it?
It's really
of
embarrassing.
Oh no.
You can start an OnlyFans, only hedgehogs.
Only hedgehogs. Oh mate, I'd make millions off that. Right,
Niche.
I have
Niche.
one question.
Sorry.
As a man who is, I am chemistry aware. Let's say that I'm a biochemist by trade. I
He
understand the
doesn't tell
chemistry of
us
it all.
this, very often. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, fuck you and your bald head. I'm just trying to. So we have
Science.
fermenters
What?
that are made from PET. Okay, so PET, polyethylene terephthalate. Do we have, or do you have any data about potential leaching of phthalates into beer from the PET? Because obviously phthalates are something that everybody seems to be worried about. Me personally, I'm not. I know they're fairly unreactive. However, do you have any information about the potential leaching of the phthalates into the beer?
So what we know is that PET has been used in many various industries for a very, very long time. It's considered food grade. I don't have any data personally. I don't know. That would have been a question for Will Fiala, our CEO engineer. He would probably have a bit more insight in that. Obviously, if there was any point of concern, we would do things differently. Everything is food grade. In everything we do, it has to be food grade, including the lid. Our black lids are food grade as well, made of food grade plastic. I don't know about other fermenters. So it hasn't been brought up. So no one has ever asked us that I know of. I've been there almost 3 years now. I've never been asked the question, hey, PET is dangerous and stuff. What I know is if I go into the supermarket and buy a soda, right, it will be in a PET bottle.
Absolutely.
So I suppose it can't be bad, but I mean, I'm not.
No, I mean, I know that they're fairly unreactive. Okay, I'm obviously, I know this. I know that they're fairly unreactive, and I know that the amount of leaching that you will get in a highly acidic drink, like, I'm not going to name names, but certain cola producers, it's very, very minimal, and therefore not really something that we need to worry about. But I just thought I'd ask the question because I'm interested in whether or not there is any data on transfer, given beer's pH is normally around about 4 by the time you finish producing it. So
yeah, no, it hasn't been a concern. I think the biggest concerns from people is more PET being porous or anything like that. You're right, getting your oxygen into the wort. Tu peux aller mettre ton café. This is just these are the questions, but the rest, I think, for our market, for the Australian people, we love them, but they also love beer, and it's all about getting beer right in themselves.
absolutely.
So that sometimes they don't worry too much about that side.
Nico was talking earlier about working in partnership with Monash University, and we helped them to establish the Monash Brew Lab. So we do have access to all sorts of testing equipment through them, which is one of the reasons why, like when you see people doing pressure, no pressure, like demonstrations on their YouTube channels, and they're just tasting it afterwards, that's what are we getting out of that? That's subjective, right? It doesn't work. But we've actually used that lab to prove other things, including dissolved oxygen. We've used them for being able to see which esters are suppressed. And we're talking about, like, is this at levels that you would notice if you're sitting there going pressure, no pressure, right? Yeah. And so we do have access to that kind of stuff. But from a food perspective on what would be happening with the PET. PET is not for long-term storage. We know
No,
that.
absolutely not.
We would always suggest that if you're going to long-term storage, you put it in something good like wood or
Stainless
steel, something, right? But for making the beverage and for the short amount of time that it's in contact with that plastic, it's really just kind of a non-issue. I mean, you could raise alarms and make people scared about it if you wanted to, but really, if we had a look at it, we're talking like, and we would need to have it like actually, thoroughly tested and everything. But it's through like laboratory process equipment. It's not an issue. It's a food industry standard to package pressurized beverages and PET and have them sitting on shelves at room temperature. And this is at temps even higher than what you would probably ferment at. So.
No, absolutely. But I mean, I had to ask the question just to see if there was any research about it more than anything else.
Because one of the products that you guys do offer is the kind of non-returnable kegs, don't you? You can do it's almost like the Fermenter King Junior type or bigger, for the actual commercial market as well, so that people, for breweries, they can actually, fill the beer, send it off, and don't worry about it coming back, sort of thing, with the returns for their kegs. Yeah. That's right, isn't it?
Really excited about that product because you're going to be drinking Australian beers in those products overseas.
Yeah,
we're really, really proud about that. But yeah, that's a different PET material.
Thanks for bringing that up. And actually, yes. So the King keg, it's called. We call it the Aussie keg because it's made here. It's the only kind made here in the southern hemisphere. So it's basically the same mold as the Junior, but it has some additional components, plastic, chemical components to it, including some nylon and an oxygen scavenger component, which means that because the PET can be porous, the oxygen scavenger component will just prevent the oxygen from getting in contact with the beer. And being PET, it's 100% recyclable, so it can be shipped anywhere.
Yep.
Once it's finished, you can depressurize the keg, cut it up, put it in the recycle bin, and it can be recycled accordingly. This is very, very important because I think Daniel mentioned that earlier on, is every man and his dog started a brewery here 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Now the market is saturated and the market is becoming the world. We have our King kegs, go to China, go to Thailand, go to Japan. The distributors international, they come to Australia, they go talk to the breweries and say, guys, I need a pallet of beer in my pub in Singapore or whatever. And they get our kegs because, it's made here. It's easy to get. It's very reliable. So they get our plastic kegs, fill it up, send it, and don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
One side of PET, sorry, if I can just mention that, PET is a byproduct of the petrol industry, right? So basically, when you get petrol from the ground and you process it, you end up with PET. Whilst plastic is not necessarily the thing we want in nature, it's already there because people are digging the ground to get petrol, so it's a byproduct, might as well use it, right? And it's safe for food and all these different things, or food preservation and stuff. So we can use it. The difference with stainless steel is you dig in the ground with the entire purpose of getting stainless steel in the ground. And you use a lot of chemicals to process everything. So the offset that you think plastic is bad for the environment, but that you don't see how the mining industry, how it operates and the damages it can do to the environment. So there's always a bit of a trade-off, and it's important for people to have a look at that.
No, absolutely. I'll agree with that on more than one level, because the ethylene tetraphthalate that is produced from the petrochemical industry, the ability to use that and to turn it into PET, the polymerization reaction that occurs with it, I mean, it's using what would otherwise be thrown away. Yeah, and also the advantage of PET compared to most other plastics is you can heat it up and remold it.
Yeah.
A lot of others you can't. So it is recyclable in that way. And I mean, environmentally friendly and all that sort of stuff. And I understand perfectly sort of why you would do that and why certain people would have an issue with that. But if you heat this to I can't remember the exact numbers. I used to know them. I think it's like 94 or 95 degrees. It basically becomes a liquid again. And then you can reformat, and everything, all of those polymers are going to have relaxed by the time you cooled it down. You just bang it, stick it into your mold and turn it into another fermenter. All it is basically that's what you do. That's the way that certain plastics work. It's a wonderful thing. It's recyclable. It's reusable. We've got it anyway because we're making tarmac and petrol and diesel and kerosene and whatever you want to call it. Might as well use it for something that's important. Well, it is important. Let's face it. Making beer is bloody important.
Yeah.
So let's use it. One last thing before we let you guys go, because I know Nico's got a house full of kids who are demanding food, and Daniel clearly wants to drink another beer. You've got multiple versions of the Fermenter King Junior, which I know Andy's got in his fridge, literally right now, probably with a beer in it.
Well done.
The fermenter, the 30-liter Chubby, incidentally, probably one of the greatest names in the world. Chubby's a good word. I like Chubby.
Oh, we get raked over
Oh,
the
look,
coals for that.
there's a
sometimes.
Chubby right there. That thing just looks amazing. It's got its own bloody
Look at that.
stand at the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah, this was not conical, but you still have the floating dip tube for extraction. Like they're really convenient size-wise. So
Yeah, I've got to say I love those, and I need to find somewhere in the UK that sells them, because 2 of them would fit side by side in my fermentation fridge. Yeah, I need that. It's all about space, isn't it, boys? That's what it comes down to. It's space when it comes to fermentation.
why we have the 10-liter junior now as well. So
I can't see the point in only making 10 liters of beer. I've got to be honest.
split batches. We just did Kvike yeast, 3-4 different types across a bunch of them, and then just little samples to go like, oh,
there you go.
What's this one doing? What's this one doing? Without the same, if you've got the volume, well, use it. But a lot of people, when like us, we looked at that and we're like, yeah, that's too small. But then a lot of people looked at it and went, wait, that's excellent, because 2 of those now I'm splitting batches. I'm getting 2 different brew days, or 2 different beers off of 1 brew day.
2 different dry hops, 2 different yeasts.
So many experiments, and then it's less than a kilo to take with you. So you fill it, and then that 10 liters, that's a respectable amount. It also, like, if you show up at a dinner party, you're not showing up with 19 liters.
Yeah,
you're like, dude, this is a dinner party. You're here to party, and you show up with 10 liters. It's respectable. Everybody can have as much as they like.
Okay, one quick question before we go. Hopefully this will be a quick answer. From Hughes Brews, our good friend Graham, do you use recycled material during your production, or do you use like literally brand new PET as you're going?
As far as I'm aware, we use brand new PET because in theory you can recycle so when you recycle, it's not in theory, when you recycle the PET, it goes through a different process, and I don't think, don't quote me on that entirely, but I don't believe that a remolded PET has the same pressure resistance, right? So it might not become a pressure fermenter again, because it's not as resistant. The polymer chains are weakened and all these different things. So as far as I'm aware, we don't for that specific reason, because we produce something that has to withstand pressure. So we don't use recycled products, but we make it available for recycling. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
When there is a product, I'm sure that they will start utilizing it if it's affordable to the process. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, I'm well aware of the fact that it's now, what is it? It's now 7:45 in the morning for you guys, and you've already had beers, and I know you've got to get your kids off to football practice and everything. So, guys, I just want to say thank you for coming on, because what we have learned, and I think, to be fair, it's opened all 4 of our eyes to a new product that's on the market. Again, I'm not going to say it's better or it's worse. I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to say is Andy's got one and he's still got it, and that's got to be a good thing. Exactly. Now, the dual temp vest, I'll take one of those. Titan 30 litre, I'll take one of those. And what's the chili?
That
I've got a massive thunderstorm over the top of me right now.
That is the driver behind the dual temp vest, right?
Okay.
So it's so close, and it's basically just.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it because it's important. You know, when we talk about glycol chillers, you know, there's one thing they can't do, right? What is the one thing they cannot do?
Warm shit up.
They cannot heat, right? Chili will be able to do both heating and cooling, right? So you set your temperature, it goes through the vase or your cooling coil, and you maintain exactly what you want.
Yeah.
You don't have to mess around with too many different units. So it's lots of people love using quark yeast. You know, you'll be able to do a fermentation with quark and cold crash at the same time.
There you go.
It's also DC powered. It's also like the size of a large toolbox.
Will there be an AC version?
No, it's powered. It's basically it will be AC powered, but it's converted to DC, so it's all safe.
Correct.
Oh, so it'll be a little like a power brick that plugs into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take one of those as well. Cheers. You've got to get all this shit shipped to the UK. All of this to the UK, right? Sweden, Denmark, right? Okay, the Netherlands. All right, just get it shipped out. It's put it in a container. There's boats going everywhere. Just make it happen. All right, it's that easy, Nick. Come on. You say it's difficult. It's not. You put it on a boat, it arrives. Job done.
That's right. Yeah, I'll get it in the container myself. That way I can drive it straight to your house, right?
I mean, I'm assuming that you can drive boats.
Chat to those boat people.
That sounds like a reasonable
Those
request,
boat
doesn't it?
guys. They'll sort it out.
I know it's more complicated than that. I'm just pissing up your leg.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
gentlemen, thank you for joining us. It's been really, really cool. I've loved
really
talking about
appreciate
this
it.
kind of thing. And I really, really hope that we can end up with some of these products, especially the Titan, because that thing looks amazing in the UK and all around the world very, very soon, because that looks brilliant. So thanks for joining
Thanks
us.
for having us. It's been a pleasure. We could be talking about beer. We do that for a living, right? So we can go
Very
for
lucky.
longer.
Yeah.
You guys get paid for it. We have to do it for free. Although most of the time we just talk about it anyway because we're normally drinking it.
Thanks
Right.
for giving me an excuse to drink in the morning. So, you know,
Hey,
it's been great.
anytime
welcome.
you want to join us, mate.
You're welcome.
Sounds good.
Right, so I'm just going to do the quick shutdown. Guys, please don't leave immediately. That's all I'll say. Episode 76 of the Hop Edition. Keg King, Nico, and... Oh, shit. Yeah, fuck it. It's
Smooth
fine, I'll
finish
pick that
there,
up later.
Alex. Good
Episode
work.
76 is in the bag, and we're done. We're going to be back in a few moments because we've got to drink some beer. But thanks to Nico and thanks to Daniel for joining us. And, you know, hopefully, based on what I've heard, Johnny at Brewcake Tap is going to be stocking this stuff, specifically the Keg King stuff, pretty soon as he sends the email to Nico. That's what I've heard. Don't quote me on it.
Wait until-
We can add
But
that
we're
to the
done.
intro then, can't we?
We'll catch you later, okay? Take care, gentlemen. Have a good
Bye.
evening.
guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
Thanks, Nico.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.